Neostrings is our flagship modern soloists string collection comprising of a violin, viola, cello and double bass. Both in the incarnation of their main pure instruments with the kind of bread and butter articulations from static longs to expressive longs, staccatissimo, spiccato, pizzicato, forte decrescendos, there's col legnos and everything other than violins, some ornamental playing, trills and trems, as well as a plethora of extended and special performance techniques unique to this library and unique to the performances captured on the day. So if we take a look at the interface, you can see that we have our flagship overlay functionality at work here, where we can choose multiple articulations at the same time and then overlay them across the velocity spectrum to create an on-the-fly adaptive way to switch between articulations without the need of clunky key switching. Key switching, of course, is still there if required, though an additional update here is the key switching can be turned off with the click of a button, meaning that you can now use multiple instruments at the same time without worrying about triggering key switches that you didn't mean to press. We'll turn that back on for now though. So as you can see here in this current setup, we have the static longs in the first 0 to 50 position on the velocity spectrum. Then we have expressive longs and then staccattissimos in infinity mode that we'll talk a little bit more about later on, though I'm sure some of you will be familiar with it from previous libraries anyway. The library comes, of course, with a true legato functionality with a fast and slow setting, as well as our adaptive speed and velocity modes, where we can use either speed or the velocity of your performance to gauge whether or not the library spits out a slow legato transition or a fast and immediate legato transition. There's a global expressive control for overall volume and supporting the dynamics, whilst the dynamics themselves are built into the velocity of the instrument, so how hard you're hitting the keys. An additional functionality here is the ability to switch your dynamics on and off via the P, M and F, which is piano, mezzo forte and forte buttons on the actual interface itself. So for example, in this particular position here, we've got static longs in the lowest part of the velocity spectrum, meaning that if we were to play very softly, we would naturally get the piano to mezzo forte range. However, if we wanted to only get the mezzo forte or maybe even forte range, but we needed to use that first 50 velocity slot for static longs, this is where this becomes very powerful, because we can simply switch off piano, leave just mezzo forte on, and then we are secure in the knowledge that even if we play at a 1 in velocity, we're still going to get a mezzo forte performance, which is very useful when you've got a complex detailed overlay structure where you're using multiple positions. And it's not necessarily for your dynamics, it's more for creating a seamless performance and workflow. Then it becomes very powerful to be able to turn on and off those dynamics. Okay, so we have the standard performance modes here, which will switch between 2 different configurations, and you can of course go crazy and set anything you want yourself as well as you go. We'll just go back to performance mode 2 for now. All of this stuff is linked to key switches on the keyboard as long as they're enabled, though you can of course just set them up and go for it without the need for key switches at all. Let's go into key switching mode, which is where we allow just one articulation at a time, and all of the overlays will snap into place. Let's just take a quick listen to some of this. Of course, this library is very big, so we're going to have to move pretty fast here, so this video isn't crazy long. We're on the static longs right now. We'll turn all of the dynamics on. Let's just take a listen. It's really beautiful. So if we were to turn off the piano and mezzo forte, we would get just forte now. Very cool. And likewise, if we turn off the forte and maybe just the piano, we'll get the very delicate sound of the softer articulation. Beautiful. Okay, on to the static longs without vib. So you'll notice if you own Neostrings already, or if you've just checked it out in the past, that the vibrato slider has now become a switch. This is for very good reason. On solo instruments, having a vibrato slider that allows you to move freely from 0 to 127 on the expressive slider format, it will create an environment where if you land somewhere in the middle by accident, or you just don't understand how it's working, because it's a solo instrument, you're going to end up with both the non-vib samples and the vib samples working together. And that, of course, is going to create the sound of two violins, which is ultimately definitely not what you want when you're dealing with a solo instrument. So we've created a switch to make this more user-friendly, more ergonomic, and just more straightforward. You can turn it off and on either with the switch, or you can use a key switch if you're going to be moving quite often between non-vib and vib. And it just means that you can guarantee you're definitely going to get the sound of one violin all the time, regardless of the vibrato setting. The reason it's a switch is because this is a true vibrato recording from the recording session. This isn't a fake scripted vibrato, so that's why it needs to be either off or on. So we can turn it off, and we can turn it on. Lovely. Okay, so let's just whiz through some of the others. Expressive longs, non-vib. I always feel like non-vib expressive longs can really work well when you start playing harmonies as well. It kind of gives you a sense that perhaps you're scoring a 310 to Umar style kind of Marco Beltrami kind of film. Really lovely. Okay, onto the expressive longs with vib. This is kind of your 99% use case scenario, really, for most of these instruments. Lovely. Okay, on to staccato. This is the longest of our short notes. Beautiful sound. I love that. It's very expressive. It's great for playing those kind of fast sweeping phrases. Though if you wanted to be able to catch a fast sweeping phrase whilst also then attacking a long note, the option that is ideal within these libraries is to use the staccatissimo, but with the infinity mode on. And the infinity mode will allow the engine to intelligently loop back into the static longs whilst giving the hard accented start of the staccatissimo to the note. So if we turn this off first, we can hear just what the staccatissimo sounds like. Very cool sound. But with the infinity mode engaged, and I tend to turn off forte here because it's almost a bit too much of an attack for the long notes, the piano and mezzo forte just give the static longs that extra push to give it that nice attack to the beginning of a strong held note. Just incredibly powerful. I love using that particular setup. It really seems to give you that virtuosic sound of a very strong and powerful violinist really ripping away. This of course happens on all of the instruments across the entire range from violin down to double bass as well. Okay, spiccato, our shortest bowed note. Really feel the bite there, the anger in the notes. I love it. Okay, on to pizzicato. Beautiful. Forte decrescendos. These are very strong hard attacks with a pretty quick decrescendo of the note. Awesome. Now as we get onto the ornaments, we're going to start seeing that the scale link mode becomes incredibly important. So here we can link to any scale that we wish. We can even link it to just semitones and just whole tones. And we can also, as of this instrument, though it's something we'll roll out on all the other instruments that have the scale link, we can also override this scale link menu temporarily with key switches to lock it to the semitone and whole tone mid-performance, which will then snap back intelligently to the scale that you are playing in, allowing you to move completely freely chromatically around the harmony you're playing in, whilst also kind of keeping a basic key center if that is what you are aiming for. So let's take a listen to this. This is adaptive to C major. And now in reverse, this is ornaments down. Great. Trills have the same thing, semitones, whole tone variations based on the key you're playing in. These are performance trills, so they have a story to them, they have an ending. Beautiful. Finally, tremolo. Beautiful. It has that really lovely hard attack as well before it starts, almost like a tremor performance of a trill, of a tremolo. It's really lovely. Right, so let's go to performance mode 1 again just to have something linked in and head through the rest of the interface. So we have a mixer page here where we can purge any mic positions. This is probably important if you have less RAM on your computer and it's not a particularly powerful machine. You've got loads of instruments on the go. Purge a few mic positions and it will really help you out. So we can have volume, panning and purging, as well as a legato transition volume, which just will globally control the volume of the actual transition you hear as you move between notes. Effects, this is our standard stereo delay and reverb with a handful of convolutions on offer, standard across all of our instruments. I'm sure you are familiar with it by now. And then an EQ page here with a basic 4-band EQ with a low section, a low mid, high mid, and a high. The low and high mids have Q factors to tighten up the dip or gain boost, whatever you're trying to do. And then there's an overall global output volume as well on that EQ, just to kind of boost the instrument if required, or bring the volume down, of course. I'm sure you'll be using your own EQs within your own DAWs, but it's there just in case you want to kind of jump in and get some sculpting of your sound done within the box. Okay, let's jump through to the viola now. We're going to do a bit more of a whistle-stop tour here, just because it's a lot of instruments to get through. We don't have all day to do it, so let's get to the viola. Okay, so the same setup here in terms of interface and also exactly the same articulations, bar the addition of Collegno now, where we tap the strings with the wooden part of the bow. That runs all the way through down to double bass, because ultimately it is an effect that you would normally categorize with the double bass and the cello. Rarely really used on the viola, but we could get a pretty good sound out of it, so we did it. And violin, it's so high, it's all just percussion and wood noise, so it wasn't worth exploring there. So let's just take a quick listen to this instrument, which we have done in the intro, of course, but just to recap the overall sound, let's go to key switching and check out these static longs. Lovely. Onto the expressive longs. Beautiful. Again, that is your 99% use case scenario, really. The expressive longs is the core heart of the performer as they put a arc into every single note they played and really just poured their performance energy into that particular articulation set. So the expressive longs are the key core elements of this library. Obviously you lose a little bit of your own control because there is an arc within there, unlike the static longs perhaps, which is just kind of a bit more stable. But the beauty you get from that is just that natural performer-led dynamic arcs. It's beautiful. Okay, staccato. Great. Staccatissimo, again, we can turn off overlay and have, infinity mode. Or we can turn that on and get that lovely accented long. Really love that. It's so playable. It's just feels like you've really got the instrument in your hand. I love it. Okay, on to spiccato. Great. Now Collegno. Very cool. On to pits. Lovely. Forte decrescendo. Now the ornaments, which of course are linked to our scale. Trills. And trems. Very cool. Okay, let's, the rest of the interface, of course, is identical to the violin. So let's jump through to the cello now. Okay, so the cello. This is a beautiful and brooding, though very quite aggressive tonally cello. I really love it. Cello 1, of course, is our flagship solo cello library, which is a standalone thing in and of itself. And that is kind of more delicate and expressive. Whereas this one, whilst it is expressive and can be delicate, it has a certain primal rawness to the sound, which I really quite enjoy. Really lovely. Let's take a whistle stop tour of some of these sounds. So static longs. Expressive longs. You notice I'm not even using the expressive slider here. I just don't need it. The performance is so beautiful and so dynamic in its nature that you just want to play. You just want to play. It just frees you to be creative and be the musician you are. Okay, staccato. These are the longest of our short notes and certainly the longest of the library. Love them. They're great. They're really great at playing those kind of fast phrases, but also have such a body to them that they do stand alone as an individual note as well. Really lovely. Okay, staccatissimo, same deal. We can turn off the infinity mode and just get access to the short notes. Or we can turn on the infinity mode and play some extended long notes with that hard attack. Great, on to spiccato. Lovely sound. Right, Collegno, it really starts to come into its own here because it's getting into the range that it's really comfortable in. Awesome. Now pizzicato. Awesome. Forte decrescendo. Bite. The bite at the lower end of that is just epic. I love it. It's so growly and powerful. The ornaments, which of course are linked to our scale mode. Trills. Beautiful. And trems. Very cool. Okay, on to the double bass now then. This is such a beautiful one. I love this instrument so much. It's got so much clarity and beauty and charm to it. It's rare to hear this in a upright bass, really, within the software world. It just feels really human. I really love playing it. So again, a quick whistle stop tour of the main articulations, the static longs. Just no expression slider required. It's just naturally that beautiful. I love it. On to the staccatos. Really feel the air being moved around there by such a powerful instrument. Staccatissimo with infinity mode off initially. Now with it on. Such a flexible beast in that mode. You can really get around the instrument in this way that is just so virtuosic. On to spiccato. Very cool. Collegno. Very cool. And pits. Forte decrescendo. Lovely. Ornaments. Trills. Trems. Beautiful. Such a beautiful rounding off of the main section of this library where we have the kind of core articulations of the key instruments. Let's head off to the ensemble patch of this main articulation set now. Then we'll go through into the special effects and extended techniques section of the library. Okay, so as you can see, you have pretty much all of the core articulations from the main library collected into an ensemble patch, which is effectively a sketching tool of all 4 of the instruments housed within the one instrument for easier access. Beautiful. I love it. It's such a great and useful writing tool. Let's go to the expressive longs and check them out. Lovely. And the staccatissimo, again, we can use that just as a standalone or in infinity mode. Spiccato. Very cool. On to pits. Forte decrescendo. Great, and finally trems. Okay, let's go back to expressive longs and let's check out the chord modes quick. These haven't changed from the original incarnation. So chord mode 1 is a series of simple triads: major, minor, diminished, augmented, suspended, and power chords. Then chord mode 2 is a series of extended chords. So major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, diminished 7, major, minor 7, and cluster chords. So with this set, each octave has a different chord type. Beautiful, love it. And now the extended version. The clusters are my favorite. They sound excellent. All right, let's jump through to the effects instruments now. So up first, the violin effects page. So as you can see here, what we basically have is 7 core articulations for this extended and special effects. They're the same across all of the 4 instruments in their effects modes. We have harmonics, we have overtone, sol, pont, where we're at the sol, pont, cello of the instrument, and we're playing all of the really grisly, nasty overtones. Then sol tasto, which is the kind of warmer, fluty kind of end of the instrument. Pont tasto cycles. Now this is going from moving from sol pont to sol tasto in a cyclic motion, creating a kind of washing sound. Then post-bridge effects, which is basically just the player going crazy for a couple of minutes post the bridge on those little miniature section of strings. Really crazy, cool sounds there. And it is pitch stretched in this library, so middle C is the standard, and then it goes out from there. Then we've got sol pont trems, which is just the, as it sounds, tremolo performed at sol pont. Then erratic wide to fib vibrato, where we're getting this kind of really crazy drunken wide vib that gets more and more aggressive, and then calmer and calmer as we move back to the center of the pitch. In the effects patches, there is a X fade slider, a crossfade slider. And what this will do is it will allow you to move between what is effectively layer 1, which is the 7 articulations, to layer 2, which is also the 7 articulations. But for instance, we have harmonics in layer 1 and we have overtone sol pont in layer 2. Using the crossfade, we can move naturally between the two. So if we start in harmonics and then move, you get this really beautiful real-time blending of those textures, which is just very, very useful, especially when you start creating overlay structures and you start moving between all sorts of different textures. It becomes very complex very quickly and can create a really rich, beautiful tone. So let's go to just layer 1 and move through some of these sounds. So harmonics. Oh, I love it. It's so kind of twisted and kind of broken. The overtone sol pont. Lovely. Okay, now the sol tasto. Beautiful. Pont tasto cycles. That is a real favorite of mine. You can blend those with other sounds and it just really starts to create a beast of a texture that you just can't find anywhere else. You won't be able to create that sound anywhere else outside of getting the instrument yourself and doing it. That's the beauty of these really strange articulation sets. So the post-bridge effects. And these are, of course, time stretch, so pitch stretch, sorry, so we can get higher versions of that. And lower. Getting into the realms of horror scoring there, really. It's so eerie and beautiful. Though, of course, if you really want to go down the road of scoring for horror, then Haunted Strings 2 is the answer to that. It's a string library centered around a series of players domed in an arc from violins through to cello through to double bass to create this widespread sonically of the sound of the library, and it's just jam-packed with all of those really crazy nuanced string sounds you might find in a horror score. So that's worth checking out as a side note. But there's a bit of that going on here as well, just through virtue of it being a Insanity Samples library. Okay, Sol Pont Trems. Awesome. An erratic wide to thin vib. Awesome. Okay, and then of course what we can do here is go into overlaying mode, perhaps have some of these things set up, and we can create our performance pathways if we want to do it like this. Or we could use stacking, which allows you to use the same slot for more than one articulation. You will need to turn these on manually, but now we'll have a series of sounds taking up the same space. Be crazy, I'd go easy with the post-bridge effects. You have something really crazy like that going on there, and something really simple and beautiful going on in the second slot. And then when you move between the two, so say I assign this to this slider, and we can move through. The sky's the limit here. You know, you can really get crazy with these sounds. And then, of course, create pads with these versions of the libraries, the effects sections, the kind of extended special effects ends of the library, and then draw in one of the main instruments and use that as your kind of melody, and that could be the way you work through. Okay, let's dive through to the viola effects now. We'll just whip through the last few effects patches, and that will be us. So the same setup here again, as you can see, the exact same set of articulations, just now performed on a viola in their own unique way. That might be the best erratic wide to thin vib in the whole library, the viola. What a beaut. Okay, let's jump through to the cello effects patch. Okay, let's dive into something like the overtone sol pont and give that a go. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, erratic white fin vib. Excellent. Right, the bass, special effects and extended techniques. Let's have a quick listen to that. Texture. That's awesome. So cool. Finally then is the ensemble special effects and extended techniques patch. So this is again the same with the ensemble for the main thing, really used as a kind of sketching tool. It takes all of the instruments from the effects patches and it pushes them into one collective instrument. Beautiful, very powerful. Okay, that has been an in-depth look at Neostring's modern soloists, all that is new in the version 4 update, including the all-new ensemble effects patch, which didn't exist in previous versions. All put into our beautiful overlay functionality technology, bringing this into the newest workflow that we have and the most advanced scripting techniques that we employ on our instruments now. Head to insanitysamples.com for more information and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.